We're not a bank. I mean, banks suck. Like, they pay you nothing. They keep all the money for their, the shareholders. And like, this is just not the world I want to live in. I think, there's different types of banking, but I'm talking about the banking where basically they take in deposits, pay them nothing, and then, they just pocket this easy money or do duration transformation, this kind of stuff, and basically just keep the entire spread. And for me, like, why I'm in this space in the first place is to empower people, because I fundamentally believe that if we give people more and more tools, especially those who don't have access, at all, this is just going to make the world a much better place, because as you empower people, they can, be more creative, they have more options. And I think this just is a much better society to live in.
Welcome to the Edge Podcast. I'm DeFi Dad here with Nomadic. Today's show is with Sam MacPherson, the CEO of Phoenix Labs, which is a service provider to Spark. So today we're going to talk about all things Spark. Spark is not only one of the largest on-chain capital allocators, with now billions of dollars on-chain, sort of fulfilling this like fantasy I had years ago that we would see DAOs actually automating liquidity provisions to the tune of billions. There's 3.6 billion in liquidity in Spark today, and we're going to run through all the different products here, from the Spark liquidity layer I was just referencing to their savings product, which currently offers a fixed 4.5% APY, super competitive on-chain yield there.
Yeah, and we also briefly at the beginning kind of touch on just the origin story of Maker and how Spark came out of Maker, and all the different kind of, they call them stars, that kind of work in conjunction with Maker. And that was some background and history that I actually didn't know. So that was good to kind of touch on as well with Sam.
We also will cover a bit about the upcoming Spark token launch, and also a bit about some of the strategies that Nomadic and I have been actively deploying or considering deploying more into. So stay tuned for that. So before we get started, just a quick reminder, if you listen to the podcast on YouTube or Apple or Spotify, please subscribe there. And then also you'll want to go to the-edge.xyz. That's a great place where you can get access to all the written content that we put out aside from the podcast. And then one last thing, as always, please show some love for our sponsors. Again, we work really hard to curate partners that are not just sponsors. These are folks that we've known and we enjoy working with. We know their products. We believe what they're building is valuable. So if you go into the show notes, you'll find links to all of those different protocols and applications. So go exploring. There's lots of great partners there, lots of great yields to discover through our partners at the Edge Podcast. The crypto UX is broken. In AI, you can't trust it. Let Magic Newton set you free. It puts financial freedom on autopilot. It does all the work for you 24/7, so you can go do what you want. This is the vision behind Magic Labs, the creators of embedded wallets. Used and backed by the best, see for yourself with a simpler crypto UX powered by verifiable AI agents. Get started at newton.xyz. Maple Finance is one of my favorite products in DeFi. It is a gateway to sustainable real yield powered by over 1 billion in AUM across USDC and BTC products. And now with Syrup USDC by Maple, anyone can earn institutional grade yield. Learn more at syrup.fi, and thanks to Maple for supporting us here at the Edge Podcast and Edge Newsletter.
Satoshi wanted blockchain to be fair. MEV corrupted the system. Bad actors extract billions, while users pay the price. MEV ends now. Introducing FAIR, the first L1 blockchain to eliminate MEV using byte protocol. No front running, no sandwich attacks, no manipulation. Just fairness. Cryptographically guaranteed. FAIR is for AI, for financial institutions, for scale, and for you. It's MEV free, confidential, and fast. Powered by byte protocol and FAIR SDK. The future is fair.
Overwhelmed trying to manage your crypto and DeFi investments? Meet iYIELD, a free financial planning tool for crypto natives and yield farmers. iYIELD's dashboard compares returns from your DeFi positions side by side, providing clarity to help you make better decisions. iYIELD supports a growing list of over 16,000 tokens and 40 of the top DeFi and staking protocols across 17 blockchains, including Ethereum L2s. The best part is that iYIELD is 100% free, anonymous, and there are no ads. Check out iYIELD.com today to take control of your financial future. Hey folks, I wanted to tell you a bit about our sponsor, PYTH Oracles, your go-to source for smarter data to power smarter contracts. PYTH delivers real-time market data for crypto, equities, FX, and commodities to over 80 blockchains. With 120 plus major market participants like Jane Street, Binance, and CBOE, PYTH ensures secure, low-latency feeds trusted by 430 DeFi apps. You can learn more about PYTH by going to pyth.network, and thanks to the PYTH community for supporting us here at the Edge Podcast and Edge Newsletter. All right, let's introduce Sam MacPherson, CEO of Phoenix Labs, which is a service provider to Spark. Sam, welcome to the Edge Podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Good to be here.
Why don't we talk about your start at Maker? Because Spark is a sub-DAO of Maker, right? So maybe you can talk us through all of that.
Yeah, sure. So, it's I guess it's only been 4 years, but it feels like an eternity in crypto. So I started out, originally I got into crypto in the 2017 ICO cycle. I think like most people just, I knew about Bitcoin before, but I wasn't overly interested in Bitcoin all that much, at least at the time. But ETH really spoke to me because of the smart contracts and all this stuff. I'm a programmer, software engineer by trade, so this really spoke to me. So after investing in ETH, I started looking around for projects I'm a fundamentals investor. So Maker was like the first project that really stood out to me because there's a product and cash flows, all this kind of stuff. So next thing you do, you buy some Maker, right? And then you learn about the project. So the next few years, I kind of was like forum lurker, just reading up on the protocol, learning about smart contracts, this kind of stuff. At the time, I was doing video game development. And then in 2021, I officially joined the project, joined into the protocol engineering team. So I was never actually at the Maker Foundation, which was originally building and running the protocol. I came in right around at that time when there was the initial attempt to switch over to the DAO. So the DAO took operational control of the protocol at that time. And then the first iteration of how to run the DAO was these things called core units, which were segmented by the different things you're working on. So I was part of the protocol engineering core unit, and we were focused on smart contracts engineering. But there was a growth one, there's marketing one, there's BD, there's all kinds of different core units that were there at the time, and this went on for 2 years. And the DAO was really running the show for a little bit, but there was encountered some scaling issues. At this time, DAI was just going crazy with growth. All the way up to 10 billion in outstanding supply at the peak of the 2021 cycle. And the first iteration of the DAO kind of was hitting its growing pains. So there was this restructuring that was proposed in 2020. I may get the dates a little, trying to remember all the history. But yeah, I think it was 2022 this was proposed, right around when the bear market was setting in. And this was called the endgame proposal. And so the idea was that governance was not working too well, having this sort of flat token voting structure where, I was sitting on the inside. So a lot of times there'd be some initiative that we wanted to do. And there's only one process. You have anything outside of the mandate of doing engineering smart contract stuff. If you have some sort of cross team initiative, you would have to put a proposal, a one-off proposal on the forum and go through a 2-month governance process. So this just didn't work too well. And so you increasingly are spending your time arguing on forums and stuff like that. And it's just, compared to the efficiency of a centralized organization, it's just it just was not working at all, and it's like prone to like politicking and stuff like that. So, it was a nice first attempt, but so the restructuring with the endgame is designed that so Sky, formerly known as MakerDAO, now rebranded to Sky. The idea there is that Sky is meant to be a very, very simple construct and does not do any growth initiatives. Instead, all of the growth and decision making is outsourced to these sub-DAOs, which are also known as stars. And so Spark is one of these stars. And so basically Sky will lend to these stars at a wholesale rate. And actually, I think a useful analogy here that I think really helps to conceptualize this. Now, like none of these are banks, I'll say that, but I think the analogy of a central bank and a commercial bank is useful. So Sky is more like a central bank that is issuing the currency, and it basically gives wholesale credit to commercial banks. And so Spark is more like a commercial bank in that you're able to make decisions about like where to allocate, what assets to allocate to, and Sky just sort of sets the general risk frameworks of what collaterals are acceptable, what the risks are with depending on the different types of collaterals. And so this kind of model, and so because there are multiple stars, the whole system remains decentralized as a whole because of the competitive pressures between the stars. So you instead of having like a council type governance system at the root debating everything, you have specialization in each of the stars. And even some of these stars will fail. It's designed to be like basically a free market. And so some will be wildly successful, and then Sky benefits from that. But some will crash and burn, just like in a regular free market. And the system, the competitive pressures, basically, much like the free market exists today, the free market is very decentralized. It's probably one of the most decentralized objects we have in society. And so this keeps the whole system decentralized. And so, having been personally in both of these structures, I think the sub-DAO model is much, much better. I think the incentives are all aligned correctly. We're just getting to that point where it's starting to go into like for real production. So we'll see. But I think it's like, it's good to attempt these kind of things. And this, like, I'm very excited to see if this actually works and we can actually scale governance. So, very, very long intro for my history and where we're at. But yeah, so my team, we founded Spark, and, maybe we can get more into that, the details there. But that's the history.
Yeah, maybe just kind of give us that highlight of what exact timeline was it when Spark kind of spun off, and just kind of that quick, the birthing of Spark, like that origin story behind it. I think you give a really good background though on the stars. I wasn't aware of kind of like that. And then I think that analogy too of the central bank and commercial bank is that kind of really makes it clear. I've actually always been kind of fuzzy on some of these inner workings and how these teams kind of work together. But yeah, maybe just kind of that brief origin story of Spark as well.
I mean, I've always been a very product focused person. So under the previous DAO structure, I was getting personally kind of increasingly frustrated with getting any kind of initiative passed through governance. But with the change of the structure, I recognized me and my team, we recognized the opportunity that we could, do some of these growth initiatives that we were interested in. So one of the things that we recognized at the time, Maker of the CDP system, there were several key features that were missing from it that more modern lending markets had. So we had Compound was big at the time, Aave was big at the time. These are more modern lending markets where you can do things like cross-collateralization. And then Aave v3 had just launched at that point, which had the efficiency mode, which we recognized with the rising popularity of LSTs. Like Lido had just kind of launched at that time, so this was very new. Most of the collateral that was in Maker was like vanilla ETH. But because of the LSTs, we recognized there's going to be this loop leverage thing that's going to become increasingly popular. And the CDPs did not support this because there was no support for rehypothecation of the collateral. So these two features, we recognize that we want to support for DAI users. And so we looked around at the landscape, and we were comparing a couple of the major lending markets at the time. So we look at Compound. As I mentioned, Aave v3 had just come out with this E-mode that was very interesting to us. And we were actually also looking at Euler v1 as well. And so we decided to go with Aave v3. We didn't want to build this from scratch, first of all, because it's open source code. Might as well reuse the existing stuff instead of spending several years building it. And so based on the feature set, we landed on using Aave v3. And I think it's been a great success. We launched this in May of 2023. And this product rapidly became one of the largest lending markets almost immediately. And it's because of the reason it grew so quickly is because of its relation with MakerDAO at the time. So maybe I could talk about the D3M stuff a little bit, because I think this is kind of a relevant parallel timeline. So the D3M, which is this piece of technology, which stands for DAI Direct Deposit Module, we actually originally started working on this in 2021. We collaborated with Aave. So Aave v2 was actually the first market that we directly deposited DAI into, their DAI market on there. The recognition was that we have the CDP system internal to Maker, but we can actually just mint DAI and then stick it into the Aave market and earn the APY there, basically. And the whole system remains collateralized. It makes sense from a financial perspective. So this is quite successful. We launched this in October of 2021, and it grew to a decent size, I think like 200 million or so. And then, but yeah, this success case, this was sort of the initial success case that we looked at for the next evolution, which was Sparkland, where we wanted to have our own internal lending market with all these features, but also connected with this liquidity pipeline, which is the D3M. So but we're also still doing it to Aave as well. So this is, and I mean, I'm kind of like foreshadowing a bit, like this is kind of going to be culminating into the product, the Spark liquidity layer, which we can get into a little bit later. But this is kind of the evolution, the different pieces that are connecting that have led to this.
So Sam, we should talk through these different major products, just in case the audience is not familiar with all of them. The one that has really blown my mind in Nomadics is the Spark liquidity layer. So what can you tell us about that as a product?
Yeah, sure. So maybe just before we get into the Spark liquidity layer, let's go over. So Spark has three major offerings. So as I was talking about before, that was kind of the lead up to the first product, which is called Sparkland, which is a lending market. And this connection with the DAI Direct Deposit module is what bootstrapped it up to a large size. But shortly after that, we launched Spark Savings. This is interface to get easy access if you want to earn a yield on your stable coins. So the idea is that, you're holding USDC or USDS or DAI or USDT, and we want to provide an easy interface for you to get in and out of now SUSDS primarily. And so this product you can think of as like on the deposit side for you as a user, you can just kind of set it and forget it and know that the Spark liquidity layer, which I'll get to next, is this very complex engine on the back end that is optimizing yield between all the different yield sources in DeFi. So now on to the final product, which is the most recent. So the Spark liquidity layer, which we launched in November of last year, this is designed to be the most advanced at-scale yield generation protocol that exists. So the design of it is basically the culmination of what worked for the D3M, and then making it the most general possible version, making it the most flexible, the most adaptable. So basically, it is a system that will take stablecoin liquidity and it will allocate it across all the opportunities within DeFi, CeFi, as well as TradFi now. So, and these actually opportunities were not all available at the time. So historically, on-chain protocols mostly only had access to over-collateralized crypto lending, usually against ETH or wrapped Bitcoin, stuff like that. But more recently, with products launching like Athena, which gives access to the centralized exchange funding rate. There is MAPLE, which gives access to off-chain OTC lending against Bitcoin, as well as real-world assets have become much more popular. So in 2022, we had the rise of tokenized treasury bill products such as BlackRock Biddle, Superstate. There's a whole bunch of them now. This is very common, but this didn't exist at the time. So as these tokenizations opened up, these are more places that we can deposit into and get the yield from. And so the Spark liquidity layer is designed to be this at-scale allocation system where we automatically rebalance between treasury bills, on-chain over-collateralized crypto lending, funding rates within centralized exchanges, as well as off-chain OTC lending, usually against Bitcoin. And so it looks at all these opportunities, and we have an automated controller which will rebalance across all of them. And then not only that, but the other features that it has is multi-chain. So the D3M was constrained to Ethereum, it was constrained to DAI, and it had a very kind of clunky controller for reallocation. So with the Spark liquidity layer, it is fundamentally multi-chain, it is multi-asset, and it is the controller is off-chain. It does not custody any of the funds, so everything is still on-chain. But it can redirect between like whitelisted opportunities so that the yield generation is always being optimized.
Yeah, this is so cool. We were talking offline, and I think some of the Spark product suite, like namely this, kind of caught me off guard a bit, because I think in my head you can kind of be like, oh yeah, Spark is for lending, and then you're like, okay, well Spark is also for savings, and then like, doing a double take, like, oh, Spark is now also allocating like 3.6 billion across DeFi. It's so cool to see. I got like a million questions about this, but I'll try to just give you one at a time. One of the things I think of is like, how much capital could DeFi take right now? Like, I'm curious of what the constraint is to where like, oh, we actually can't, like, could we onboard another 10 billion right now into these products? Like, what is the upper limit for still obtaining good yield? Like, do we start to hit any sort of constraint with this stuff? Like, I mean, I'm looking at something like BlackRock. I'm probably not there, but yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. What is the capacity is a very good question. And actually, this capacity will grow as the assets appreciate in value. So, where the best estimate of what the capacity of generating decent yields at, the yield generating capacity of DeFi and CeFi, I would combine those. It's a couple tens of billions. So like looking at maybe like 20 billion is where it's starting to tap out. And where the limiting factor is, at least right now, is centralized exchanges still have most of the liquidity. So DeFi can provide a decent amount, but centralized exchanges are still much bigger. And so we tap into the, like perps are very popular products. So tapping into the funding rates there can scale quite a bit. So I think that roughly about 20 billion. 20 billion is probably a reasonable estimate at this point. But as I said, as the assets, especially with the growth of Bitcoin and, hopefully soon, there opens up more and more capacity for the US dollar stablecoins as well.
So something else I noticed, just like looking at the liquidity layer here, you're actually beating T-bill yield. So I'm curious, like, obviously the conversations with institutions are not just starting, they're very much ongoing because you're onboarding them. But like, what does that look like, I guess, behind closed doors? I'm always curious, to get people like yours opinions on how seriously they're looking at this stuff. And is this yield risk adjusted enough for them still? Like, what does that look like behind the scenes?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can say that we've seen like a huge uptake in just institutional interest. So I can talk about the two sides of this. So there's like the lending and the borrowing side. So on our lending side, this is we've been talking to many big names who are interested, especially with a lot of them are doing like borrowing off chain. That's much more common right now. But increasingly, we see a lot of interest in coming on chain actually, which is quite interesting because this is like where we more sit, we're like a very on-chain native protocol. And so we would much prefer to have the loans on-chain. I think the benefits of having, the collateral on-chain, immediately liquidatable, this has just been proven out to be like the most robust way to issue these types of CDP-style loans. Actually for this fun fact, the entire history of Maker, there's actually been no bad debt that has come from these types of loans against like ETH and Bitcoin and stuff like that. It's just proven itself as like a very good yield source and a very safe yield source. So, and it grows during bull markets. So you can sometimes hit like even double digit yields even with the DeFi over collateralized crypto lending. So with institutions, yes, I think we see more and more interest in coming on chain, and this has been shifting a lot recently. Probably due to the change in administration, the change in attitude towards crypto in the US has been great.
MANTLE is charting a course towards a future of enabling crypto access for everyone, with major endeavors to build MANTLE Banking and MANTLE Index 4. MANTLE Banking means a new crypto neobank that helps users spend, save, and invest across their fiat and crypto finances, all in one account. MANTLE Index 4 is a tokenized fund in partnership with one of the leading tokenization platforms in the market. You can think of MI4 as the S&P 500 of crypto. To learn more, check out group.mantle.xyz, and thanks to the MANTLE community for supporting us here at the Edge Podcast and Edge Newsletter. Can you dumb down like what we are talking about when we say like DeFi institutions or institutions interested in DeFi? That term is getting thrown around quite a bit. I'd also love to know, without sharing anything that's confidential, of course, but like, can you tell us like which of the products institutions are most interested in? Like, are they looking at that 4.5% with SUSDS, or are they looking at potentially lending, to Spark Lend? Is it all stablecoin related, or are there any other like assets? Like, is there an interest in, ETH exposure or tokenized Bitcoin exposure?
Yeah, so I can get to the SUSDS side. This is not so much what I'm talking about right now. I'm talking about like our lending to institutions, and there is a wide variety of use cases for this stuff in the crypto landscape. It goes from like hedge funds to high frequency traders to exchanges. They have like retail focused lending operations as well as actually another interesting example is Coinbase, their Bitcoin Borrow product that they launched in January, where people can take loans against their Bitcoin in the Coinbase app. We're actually supplying 80% of the liquidity to that market. So this is like a DeFi mullet style integration through Morphos, which is very interesting. So I think we're going to see a lot more of this style of DeFi mullet, really everything basically. So when I'm talking about institutions, that's what I'm referring to. On the SUSDS side, so this is if people want to lend to us. This is there is a number of use cases for this. It's just general DeFi people who are parking their treasury there, whales, stuff like that. It's just been historically a very good yield that bottoms out at what the T-bill rate is. So like previously, we didn't have access to T-bill yields. And so now that we have tokenized T-bills and we're able to basically floor out the yield that SUSDS is providing, I mean, in my opinion, like nobody should be earning under the treasury bill rate, because that is the risk-free rate of the US dollar. So providing that by default is a nice baseline. But as bull market conditions come in, again, you could just park your funds there. Even if you have hundreds of millions of dollars, we have this sort of size, and we will actively be deploying it across the opportunities as they emerge from bull market conditions.
So Sam, if you're in the space, you're aware we're in a stablecoin boom. Like everybody and their mother is saying they're bullish stablecoin. So for somebody like Spark, that's, clearly you're positioned well for it. I'm just like kind of curious, like just your more inner, deeper thinking about this vertical and just your overall strategy and positioning for how you see this lining up for Spark, I guess.
Yeah. So the way I view stablecoins is there's like two main categories. So you have the fiat-backed 100% reserve stablecoins, which are optimizing for liquidity. This is Tether and Circle. So USDT, USDC. USDS as the third largest stablecoin is not optimized. I do not view these two others as competitors here. In fact, USDS is optimizing to be more of a yield generation stablecoin on top of these two. So these other two, people can use them. They have high liquidity and, people use them for trading, all this kind of stuff. But when they have idle funds, you want to park it in a place where you get yield usually, at least the risk-free rate. And so SUSDS is positioning itself to be that default parking space. And it's optimizing itself to have this good balance between liquidity and yield. So maybe not everybody knows this, but USDS, Sky is actually the largest on-chain holder of USDC. And so it maintains this through the peg stability module. And so people can redeem between USDS into USDC back and forth at incredibly large scale. I think there's 2.3 billion sitting in the peg stability module right now. So this sort of like guarantees of liquidity is what the big advantage of using USDS is, just as the first and the biggest on-chain yield generating stablecoin. But it's also able to produce a yield that, because of the things like the Spark liquidity layer, is near optimal yield basically at scale. And so we're able to deliver these returns to the users, and they just have this nice, so you could basically just park it in SUSDS, and when you want to exit basically at any size, you can exit hundreds of millions at once if you want with no slippage into USDC. And so this is where we're positioning USDS.
Sam, with something like that ideal savings product, I'm always curious if people like yourself are looking to maybe like big distribution partners in Web 2 that, need or want to tap into this kind of yield. Are those conversations you're having as well that you can share?
Yes, absolutely. So we're seeing a lot of these distribution channels opening up, which is great. So as I mentioned before, like the Coinbase integration. So we have the Bitcoin Borrow there, but there's also integrations on the earn side. So users can park their stable coins and be earning this yield. We're also looking at places like TON with great interest. They have distribution through Telegram. And we just kind of see this strategy. There's other exchanges as well that are looking at this like, chain exchange kind of merge, basically like little by little, it's just these worlds are just coming together, and we want to be in place on each of these chains so that this is like the default option for those who want to deploy a large amount of capital.
Sam, I think Spark has been at the forefront of adopting stablecoin yield products, like looking obviously to optimize yields through the Spark liquidity layer. That being said, stablecoins, let's call that the most successful RWA up until now. It's going to continue to be like the breakout product, but there's all sorts of other forms of RWAs, real world assets on chain. So what are your thoughts there? Like, what's like the next opportunity you might see for Spark? Like, are there other RWAs that are already being discussed? Like what other like real world assets might Spark want to get exposure to?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so I think you're exactly right. Stablecoins are the first and most popular RWA, and this is one of the use cases in crypto that just has very, very clear product market fit. Like we see, we go through bull and bear cycles with the, ETH Bitcoin prices, but stablecoins is just like up and to the right in terms of adoption. And I view stablecoins as it's like the black hole basically that's going to drag more and more RWAs on chain. And eventually we're going to reach an inflection point where basically everything in finance is tokenized on chain, and there's no TradFi, DeFi. It's just finance, and it exists on the blockchain. And I can explain why I think that is. So first, there was stablecoins. Tether was one of the first to launch, and it's like the most basic form of the US dollar that you can possibly get. Then in 2022, we had the rising interest rates, which necessitated the tokenization of treasury bills, because especially for backing of stablecoins, on-chain stablecoins, this is extremely important not to be forfeiting this risk-free rate by holding non-yielding stablecoins. So there's a natural pressure there to back products like USDS with treasury bills such that you're always earning like this risk-free rate, basically. So now that we've gone to this, it's basically we're just going to go to the next thing. We just move up the risk curve in terms of opportunities. And I'm not saying USDS in particular is going to back itself with these things, but having more and more of these options available, I think it's just going to make the stablecoin space way more diverse, so people can invest into whichever risk profile they think is best. So next up, I think, is going to be corporate debt. This seems like a likely candidate for, after you get to T-bills, you can get like, another 100 bips by going into like super solid corporate debt. But once we start moving beyond US dollars, it gets a little bit more tricky, but I think we will get there eventually. And it comes from this, the stable coins at the center of everything, just dragging all these RWAs on chain. And so eventually we'll just reach an inflection point where there's so much on chain that the traditional system, and actually, I don't know if people interact with this all that much. Maybe it varies based on the person, but somebody who's a DeFi native, and I have a background in video games before that. Like I was not a banker. I'm not involved in that stuff. So I've actually been kind of learning it in reverse, and it is crazy how bad TradFi is. Like there's like sending around spreadsheets and phone calls and like, T1, T2 settlement. It's so slow. And like the blockchain is just so obviously better. But you have this like network effect that exists in TradFi now where it's just a very big lift to get everybody to move over. But this is why stablecoins are going to be that thing that is naturally dragging everybody over. And so we just reached this point where more and more is coming on chain, and then it's just going to go faster and faster. And then you have this adoption.
Yeah, it's value that cannot be unseen. And I think that the thing that was holding us back was, regulators bearing down on the industry. I mean, there was like an all-out war with, I would argue, Ethereum, and then more broadly DeFi. And now that it seems that war has been lost by, the Gary Genslers of the world, we're moving forward. And the major capital allocators that probably saw that early value in DeFi, but like felt like it was just too risky to touch, too early, too immature. Now it's like glaringly obvious, and they're racing to get in to the arena. Hey folks, I want to tell you about our sponsor GEARBOX, the protocol that reimagines on-chain lending. With GEARBOX, you can access 10x credit across DeFi or lend for passive yields with single asset deposits and no impermanent loss. Users can access leverage to margin trade, stake, farm, and more. To learn more about GEARBOX, go to gearbox.fi.
Egg, a quite astonishing commodity. The cause of your desire. Egg, which fills the inner void. Egg.
Eggs are pretty epic, but you know what's more epic? Paying for them with crypto. Borrow, earn, and now pay with MOONWELL.
Say hello to Puffer UNIFI. Puffer Finance is expanding beyond native liquid restaking with new products such as UNIFI-based ROLLUP and UNIFI Pre-Confirmations AVS. UNIFI is not just another L2. UNIFI is a based rollup, one that will solve L2 issues, such as slow withdrawals versus instant withdrawals with Puffer UNIFI. Puffer UNIFI is fast, capable of sub-second transactions. UNIFI also has boosted Puffer points, which means if you bridge assets, you earn boosted Puffer points and rewards from dApps on UNIFI. Puffer's core products mean a bright future for Ethereum. Learn more at puffer.fi. One thing about the Spark liquidity layer that I was wondering is, how do you all decide, or who decides, like what sort of consensus must you come to in order for the Spark liquidity layer to allocate, capital into different protocols to earn yield? So like, if folks go to the Spark Data Hub, which I would go to data.spark.fi, I'm looking at the Spark Liquidity Layer tab, and this is, the beauty of DeFi is it's all there on chain. Whoever created this did a fantastic job. It's easy to see where the 3.6 billion in assets has been allocated. And just really quickly, you've got about 22% in the BlackRock Pendle fund on chain. We've got 20% in Spark Lend. We've got 16% in Athena, 12% Morpho, and 5% in Maple, among a few others here I'm missing. Anyways, who decides? How do you come to a decision about where to allocate assets?
Yeah, so this goes through the governance process at Sky currently. The Spark DAO is going to be launching into full production soon. As of right now, we're in like a interim period where it's like a kind of a mix of things. So how, what we look at for opportunities to onboard with the governance process, basically you just make my team and others we have a risk team, Block Analytica, that's looking at all the opportunities, the types of collateralization that is on these opportunities, and doing some analysis about what the risk reward is basically. And so then there will be like a proposal submitted, and then it goes through the Sky governance either to approve or reject the proposal basically. So with these specific examples, so I think you could think of it like the balance sheet by default, as I've mentioned a few times, is should be earning the treasury bill rate by default. And so products like BUIDL are basically just like the default. So as part of a contest that we ran a few months ago that finished called the Tokenization Grand Prix, now there was previously Maker was directly allocating into treasury bills off chain, but it was always assumed that we would move towards tokenization because this is great for transparency and auditability. So with the rises of products like BlackRock BUIDL, Superstate, and Centrifuge, Janus Henderson, JTRSY, these are all tokenized treasury bill products. These were the winners of the 1 billion allocation Grand Prix. And so basically all excess capacity just kind of defaults to going to either these three or USDC as sort of the cash-like backing of the balance sheet. Then we look at yield opportunities that are either in CeFi or DeFi primarily. So the primary one, which is Spark Lend, as you mentioned. So if this yield is higher than the treasury bill rate, there's a certain spread that we want to achieve. And then if it meets this threshold, then we basically just keep allocating as much as we can so that users who are lending to us get this higher yield from that portion of the balance sheet. And then within Spark Lend, we're looking at different types of collateral. We're very focused on just blue chip. We're not trying to go down a super risky rabbit hole. So we do lending primarily against CBBTC, ETH, blue chip LSTs, LRTs, this kind of stuff. These are the primary collaterals within Spark Lend. And then we're looking at different types of markets. So for example, Bitcoin loans have just become very, very popular, especially with the price appreciation with Bitcoin. There's a lot of demand for people borrowing against their Bitcoin, but maybe not necessarily everybody's ready to come onto Ethereum for whatever reason. Maybe even Bitcoin holders don't want to come onto Ethereum, right? For maybe ideological reasons. Who knows? There's all kinds of different reasons. So previously we were constrained to just doing on-chain lending on Ethereum, but the goal of Spark is to basically meet the market where it's at. So through products like Maple, we are able to deploy capital into their CDeFi bridge. So they take the funds from DeFi, they pull them out into CeFi, and then they're able to issue loans. And primarily the collateral backing there is Bitcoin as well. So it's the same thing that's happening on chain, but off chain, because maybe borrowers prefer a custodian or something like that, as opposed to going on Ethereum. So really, we just want to find these market opportunities, and provided we do due diligence on all of these with, as I mentioned, with Block Analytica. And then if it's worthwhile opportunity, if it's scalable, and if we feel the risk is reasonable, then we will go ahead and do this.
One thing you said in there that kind of stood out to me was you were getting T-bill yield off-chain, but that it's easier and better to get it on-chain. And it kind of goes back to something else you said just about all of finance will come on-chain. And that's something I've thought of for a long time. And I used to think about it but not believe it. But probably, I don't know if it's maybe 6 months to a year ago, it's something I firmly believe now, which when you say that to normies, you sound like a crazy person. But when you see what's slowly happening, also to what you alluded to earlier, like stablecoins are that little transfer mechanism that's making it happen. And it's really like becoming, I think, another version of the gradually then suddenly meme. And this kind of ties into something else that I've seen you guys doing, which I think is genius. This Spark is not a bank slogan that I'm seeing on Twitter, because my mind immediately goes to, oh, but maybe it is a bank. But that's like another kind of aging institution that is so ripe for disruption. And it draws so much ire from me because I'm like, you guys being the banks, you give us this like shitty 0.5%. That's even being generous. I don't think it's like 0.5. It's this garbage rate to hold our money and be custodians of our money. And so when I saw this slogan, I thought it was great. And maybe Sam, can you kind of lean into a bit more of like, what are you trying to do here? Like, what's this? There's an obvious banking angle. I don't know if you can speak to it, but yeah, I'd love to hear kind of your banking or not banking vision.
Yeah, I mean, well, you nailed it. We're not a bank. I mean, banks suck. Like they pay you nothing. They keep all the money for their, the shareholders. And like, this is just not the world I want to live in. I think, there's different types of banking, but I'm talking about the banking where basically they take in deposits, pay them nothing, and then, they just pocket this easy money or do duration transformation, this kind of stuff, and basically just keep the entire spread. And for me, like why I'm in this space in the first place is to empower people, because I fundamentally believe that if we give people more and more tools, especially those who don't have access, like at all, this is just going to make the world a much better place, because as you empower people, they can, be more creative. They have more options. And I think this just is a much better society to live in. So this is like what we're going for. We want to, pay people what they're owed, not be taking huge margins like banks do. And I think this is what DeFi represents. And even beyond that, I think there's other benefits as well. Like, so transparency is another big thing that's in DeFi. So as we've been talking about data.spark.fi, like you can literally see where every single dollar is of outstanding liabilities of USDS. Where is this money? And with things like RWAs, I think these constructs should be as simple as possible. So this unit of BUIDL represents, this is in a money market fund that is deployed into T-bills or something like that. And, we get various commodities, tokenized, equities, all these types of things. It should be like the simplest possible interface from the off-chain world to the on-chain world. And I believe this should actually be highly regulated as well, because I think this interface, it should just be simple, regulated, because regulation here can be quite good in ensuring that, what we think is on-chain is actually backed by what they say. And in this world, if we move all the loan supply chains, all the complexity that goes on in TradFi, if we move this all on-chain and such that the touch points into the real world are just incredibly simple, and then the loan books are on-chain, you can do very, very complex audits and analysis of where all the money is, no matter how complex it gets, right? And this will prevent opaque systematic risks that sneak up on you, such as the global financial crisis of 2008. That was largely driven by just nobody knows. It was in these packages and bundles of all this like crazy stuff. And like people just didn't know what was going on. And so if we can have it fully visible, maybe something like this happens again, but at least everybody's aware of what they're investing into. And so we can reduce these types of systematic issues that come up. So I'm a big believer in all these core principles of DeFi.
I want to switch gears here a little bit, because I want to talk about something that I believe is coming imminently, with the Spark token. Spark has to be one of the longest running, biggest protocols that doesn't have a live token in the space. I'll speak to a bit of my own kind of personal journey here on, trying to get some SPK token. But you're running this like really cool Pendle program right now. And I am like a enjoyer of Pendle, and I love playing kind of like this points meta. And you guys have leaned into that really hard. One thing I want to shout out to is just being like in all these points campaigns. I think it's Block Analytica that's powering your points campaign. And I've done like tons of these, and this is like one of the best ones I've seen yet. So I just wanted to shout that out. And like, this is very nerdy niche, but what always drives me nuts is when I get into one of these points campaigns and the points don't start tracking, or like they only track or update every day, or like it takes like a month or 2 months to get the Pendle integration like looped in. This we might cut this because nobody cares about this, but I do. But seeing the points tick up like every second is genius, because like, I sit there and I watch it. I'm like, okay, I'm going to buy more. And anyways, shout out to Block Analytica. Like that was like a amazing integration. But anyways, I rambled about that sidebar point stuff. What can you tell me about the Spark token? Clearly it's been intentional, well thought out. It's years in the making, but yeah, what can you tell people about it?
Yeah, so I mean, the Pendle campaign just launched a few weeks ago has been incredibly successful so far. As of recording, it's just reached 200 million in TVL. It's actually up 100 million in the past day even. So yeah, it seems to be it's been very popular. So we're very excited.
That makes sense, Dan. Sorry to cut you off, but I just noticed today I'm starting to get passed in the leaderboard. So yeah, people are taking note. But anyways,
yeah. So beyond that, the SPK token launch is coming soon. And so what you'll be able to do with it is once it goes live, you'll be able to stake and earn some rewards on your SPK. And it's going to be used in Spark governance, all these kind of things.
So Sam, as far as I know, there hasn't been any announcement about like what percentage of the future Spark token will be allocated to folks that are farming through this Pendle campaign. And so I think the thing that's been top of mind for me is you have so many users, you have so much history on chain. How do you balance keeping the camp of like longtime users happy with the camp of new folks who see opportunity to participate in this farming campaign?
Yeah, so I mean, there has been the pre-farming campaign that's been running for a little while now. And on this data.spark.fi, there's stats there, so you can see where you're at on the leaderboard and stuff like that. So we're very grateful to the OG users who have come on and like stayed with us since the beginning. And but we're also very excited to have this newer users maybe learning about Spark for the first time with things like the Pendle campaign. So I think we hope everybody's going to be happy. It's a very exciting time for all of us, and we're excited to get this out there.
I think we know what Spark looks like today, but I'm always curious to ask people like, what do you hope it looks like in the future? Like, is there anything like you're personally really excited about to continue building with Spark?
Yeah. So for me personally, having worked in MakerDAO for a while, I've always had this dream of having this like very, very transparent and auditable balance sheet. And so the Spark liquidity layer is the ultimate culmination of all of this. And so scaling this up, like we just launched this, it's only been live for like 6 months, and already we're at 3.6 billion and climbing pretty rapidly. So we want the entire balance sheet to be as transparent as possible, so that people, when they invest into products, they have visibility into where that's going. And this gets back to my earlier point about just empowering people, because I think, especially with finance, I think there should not be huge margins on this type of stuff. I think people, for investing in various things, who are taking most of the risks, should be compensated for these risks that they take. And so I view this as a way to empower individuals to take control of their own capital, and democratizing access to these things that are in our current TradFi system, incredibly walled gardens. So that's what I'm excited about.
I am a longtime holder of SUSDS, and I have just for years been so grateful to have that as like a sustainable yield. And I think, the whole space has woke up to the fact that like we need sustainable yields on chain. We went through quite a frenzy, in the last cycle, and you can see just how much we've matured since then. And Spark has just been a huge component of that. And I think that the Spark liquidity layer, of all the things we could have talked about here, as much as like you got to understand, the ability to be able to borrow on Spark Lend, you got to understand the SUSDS savings product, but you really need to dig into this Spark liquidity layer. So I highly recommend that folks go to data.spark.fi. Like, just a quick skim tells you exactly where assets are allocated. 3.6 billion allocated is just an insane number. And, I think we're going to see tens of billions there in a matter of just a few years, so if not hundreds of billions. But guys, I think this is a great place for us to start to wrap up. So aside from the Spark Data Hub, highly recommend you go to spark.fi to check out all the products we talked about today. You should follow spark.fi. That's the X handle for Spark. And then follow Sam's personal account at Hexonaut, Hexonaut. We'll put that all into the show notes so you can easily find that and follow those accounts. And otherwise, Sam, thanks for coming on. It's so great to reconnect. We really appreciate the work that you guys are doing, and just keep it up.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. To stay up to date with future episodes, plus get expert tips, strategies, and exclusive content, subscribe to our free newsletter at the-edge.xyz.